North American Internationals. So he is coming off a hot season here and looking to finish it off with a world championship. And then top 128 at Fort Wayne Regionals this year as well.
Yeah, Brian, newer to the scene, but obviously making a huge impact here. Again, if you haven't heard the story about Brian, it's he's from the Indiana area, which is a very stacked area for Pokemon TCG, and he just constantly at local tournaments is just destroying the top players there, the Azules of the world, the Michael Pramawats of the world. Our own Kyle Sablehouse has fallen victim to him more than once. So let's see if Robin will be the next name that he adds to his list.
All right, it'll be very important to see who actually won the die roll here, going first in a pseudo mirror match. When you're playing against another Zoroark deck, it's always great when you're able to get your evolutions first.
Yeah, we talked a lot in the pre-show about how we thought, the early setups, the early turns were going to matter a lot. Let's go ahead and take a look at Robin's prizes.
Nothing too bad. You actually do see the town map hiding out in the prizes, not able to ruin our prize cams this round so far. And there we see a double colorless Glyspot and a Zoroark, but nothing really too bad. Also a Field Blower in his prizes. That could be a little bit troublesome.
All right, we are off, and Brian Miller is going first. He has that Bridget. We talked about how necessary this was. Wimpod versus Zorua. Turn 1 Bridget. No Tapu Lele necessary. We're in the top 8.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anything less. Just that awesome turn 1 Bridget start, having the Wimpod active, and he's really going to try to focus on that Glyspot in this matchup so far. But it also depends on his hand. If his hand is a little bit weak, he might go for more Zorua just to get more trading in.
Looks like he's going for the full 3 Zorua off the Bridget, of course, letting you get 3 basics and just put them right on to your bench. He has the Wimpod active and is just saying, all right, I got 3 Zorua now. I'm going to have plenty of Zoroarks to let me trade later in the game.
Definitely a strong start here from Brian. See what's in his hand. He has another Zorua and another Wimpod as well. His hand is looking pretty insane here, not even needing to bench the other Zorua. Retreat thanks to that Wimpod, and it's looking like a pretty good hand.
All right, so we also see Parallel City come down, something that we talked about being a really big deal. Of course, Zoroark GX loves to have friends along with him, more Pokemon on the bench. And the action is on Robin now. We see Mysterious Treasure going to search out a Psychic-type Pokemon, undoubtedly Tapu Lele.
And Tapu Lele for Bridget. Just try to get his setup going as well. But Brian putting down that Parallel City turn 1, actually pretty important in this matchup. Robin's only way of getting rid of an opposing Parallel City is actually Field Blower. There's no copies of Delinquent or any other stadium. He only plays 2 Parallel City himself. So having to force him to use his Field Blowers on Parallel City might be troublesome.
And we see that Parallel City is already having an impact on the game as this Tapu Lele takes up a bench spot, uses Wonder Tag to get a Bridget, and then Bridget can only find legally 2 Pokemon, so 2 Zorua. He would have loved to have a third there and fill up his bench, and already the first turn of the game, the first play of the game, Parallel City is making a huge impact on Robin's setup.
Yeah, he actually goes for no Trubbish here just because his hand is 2 Zoroark, and depending on Brian's hand, he could just take a knockout here on that active Zorua.
See a lot of options in Brian's hand. He is going to start by playing that Evo Soda card. Let him find an evolution, going to be a Zoroark GX. He will have the first trade of the game. Again, going first is a really big advantage, allows you to evolve first, get all your things set up, and just draw more cards and have kind of an extra turn of advantage.
Yeah, and I actually like Brian keeping the Zorua in his hand last turn as well, just because it gives him more options just in case he wanted to use that Ultra Ball. Decided, I don't even need it. I got this N. So I'm just going to N and then get set up from there.
I'm going to reset the hand of both players. And as a card that, if you're just tuning into us, we're going to see quite a lot throughout this top 8 in most Pokemon tournaments that you'll watch. An amazing supporter card. Right now, it doesn't really have that big of an impact, just kind of making each player draw 6, kind of resetting things. Hopefully, Brian can draw what he needs here, but later in the game may have a huge impact.
Double Puzzle time. It could be important depending on what he draws. Another Zoroark, though, off that first trade, can kind of get his deck going right now, looking for that double colorless still.
All right, we are in full Zoroark mode here. We've seen 4 extra cards drawn with trade. We've got energy yet to still be attached. We do have double puzzle. Puzzle of Time, a very, very powerful card out of the Zoroark deck. So we are just going to see an attachment on the Wimpod and a pass back to Robin.
Yeah, he knows his start has been pretty well, and he's able to kind of stunt Robin's start a little bit with that Parallel City. So he can maybe afford to take a turn off.
And Brian gets 2 Zoroark GXs out, as does Robin. Plays 1 naturally from the hand, also plays an Evo Soda, so he will have access to 2 trades to get to draw just as many cards as Brian, if not more.
And there is the Cynthia from Robin. Start looking pretty good, but I think he's really going to eye down trying to draw into that Field Blower.
Yeah, long-term needs to deal with this Parallel City that's on the board. What else is he looking for? Is that just all he's focused on, is energy, Field Blower?
Field Blower, Chubbish, yeah, DCE, like you said. It's going to be pretty tough, though. I know from seeing Brian's hand earlier, he has Acerola, a card that can really swing this matchup, especially since Robin doesn't play any sort of heal like that. He
does find a double colorless energy, but he does not have a Field Blower. First trade is going to get rid of a Float Stone. Another Float Stone drawn.
Yeah, hand looking all right, but not exactly what he wants right now.
Yeah, no way to bench more Pokemon. He does have 1 trade left, just kind of deciding what he wants to get rid of. Pretty interesting hand, a lot of powerful cards in it. But he is going to go ahead and decide to discard the Zorua.
Gets another Zoroark.
All right, so again, there are 5 Zoroark GXs on the board. So many cards are going to be drawn. Goodbye, Tapu Lele. Hello, 2 new cards. Hello, my 3rd double colorless energy.
So with the Choice Band, he can actually try to take a 2-hit knockout here. Even if he just saves it, it could help next turn. But it still all depends on if that Parallel City is gone or not.
So adding a little bit of aggression there. Riot is beating for 110 damage. And we pass back to Brian.
Yeah, one good thing about the interaction between Zoroark and Acerola, even though trade says use this once during your turn, discard a card, draw 2. Well, if you put it back in your hand, it's a brand new Pokemon. Evolve it and get a free trade out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit earlier about how important the healing and the Acerola type effects from Brian could be. And we also talked about how important that Golisopod could be as we see it hit the field for the first time.
Yeah, Golisopod doing pretty well right here on this board, except for the Parallel City reducing its attack damage by 20.
And there is that Acerola. Your turn didn't matter. My Zoroark is back in my hand. My Zorua is maybe coming down to fill up my bench.
It's definitely interesting because he could leave a spot open for Tapu Lele if he gets hit with maybe an N or if something happens.
Looks like he is going to go ahead and choose a safe route of a first impression. Of course, that damage is boosted because it became active this turn. So 100 damage.
Well, 120.
Sorry, 100.
And then reduced 20 from the Parallel City.
Correct.
So it's boosted and reduced all in the same time.
Parallel City does have an actual downside in this deck. Unlike most of the time where it's just the red text does not matter.
Yeah, and with no Trubbish in sight or a way to get rid of that Parallel City, Robin's just playing a Zoroark deck against a deck that's really well positioned against just regular Zoroark.
Yeah, exactly. So early game advantage definitely goes to Brian. But again, we are in the early stages of this game. And right now, the tension is all about Robin trying to find a way to get rid of this Parallel City and actually get some action going.
This end putting both players 2-6 cards. It's still early. And remember, this matchup is all about those 2-hit knockouts. We don't see a Field Blower there. The Parallel City, but you cannot play it on top of itself. One of the only stadium rules.
Yeah, one of the weird situations where that comes up where you actually want a different stadium in play because it has a different effect, really.
And there's the Field Blower off the top.
All right, so trade finds Field Blower. And now it's kind of a situation of, all right, well, do I just play the Field Blower immediately, or do I wait until a turn where I can actually play Pokemon, try to get something set up?
So he does have a mysterious treasure in his hand that could give him access to a Trubbish. But it's really just if he finds it worth it or not.
Let's get rid of the Garbodor there with the last trade, I believe, of his turn.
There is all 4 double colorless between his field and his hand right now. So early on.
And he is going to go ahead and play the Field Blower, get rid of Brian's Parallel City, and play one of his own.
So this is essentially the same trick that Brian did. Brian's only way of getting rid of Parallel City is with his own Field Blowers. And his are a little bit more important against Garbodor if it decides to come out and play. But right now, it's not looking pretty good.
And it's interesting because Parallel City is not great for either player, but I think just Golisopod doesn't care about how many Pokemon are on the bench, right? Yeah. The interesting thing is that Brian actually had to get rid of his Wimpod there, so he doesn't have like the ability to kind of stream them like we've seen some other guys do. It's only just Zoroarks now.
Yeah, and we actually see I have too many double colorless in my hand. I'm going to discard it just so I can Mysterious Treasure for this Trubbish.
Putting a Trubbish on the field again. Robin playing both versions of Garbodor, both the more controlling Garbotoxin ability one and, of course, the Trashalange.
Robin really trying to fight his way back here. Zoroark having that 100 damage, that's really just going to stick for the entire game. Become kind of a liability on his bench as time goes on. Guzma is a really well-positioned card in combination with Golisopod. It's like they were made for each other or something.
It's almost like they're synergistic. And we do see a Riotous Beating on that Golisopod. Brian's turn now.
Draws that Grass Energy. Card that he could really use right now is maybe double colorless to Crossing Cut GX for the knockout, or even present an Armor Press for a knockout with that Choice Band in his hand.
Yeah, important to note, of course, that First Impression is now not active, so it's not going to be doing a really relevant amount of damage, so a double colorless is definitely something that Brian will be looking for.
All right, still has access to 1 trade left. Does not really find it.
Does find a Mew EX. Not too relevant in this matchup, but is the card that put him into this top 8. There has to be a lot of good memories around that Mew.
Good times, good times. Does have a Guzma in his hand as well as a Float Stone. Unfortunately, he doesn't have an extra bench spot thanks to that Parallel City because he could First Impression with the Mew. That'd be kind of cute.
So we're going to go ahead and see a Guzma bring up that Trubbish, and then we're going to, did it quickly, but we're going to bring up the Zoroark Retreat because of that Float Stone, and then First Impression. Again, First Impression was active again there, doing enough damage for the KO.
Yeah, this is kind of rough, though. Really putting this Golisopod in harm's way that is most for sure going to get knocked out. And not having the Wimpod anymore, thanks to that Parallel City, it's just a Zoroark mirror match. So it's really going to be a grindy game from here.
See Robin taking his time thinking about what exactly he wants to do. It looks like he's going to go with that N 6 cards to 5 cards.
Yeah, N, really a card that does so well against a lot of the field just because you take a lot of prizes. All right, I'll knock out your draw support and then N you down to low. Well, when you N a Zoroark deck and they have 3 Zoroarks in play, doesn't really do much.
Yeah, it's still, can be good to limit the amount of cards your opponent has. I've definitely seen, maybe I have 2 Zoroarks and I get N to 2 and still don't pull it off. But in a situation like this, it's just about drawing new cards. Brian's going to be able to find most of what he needs is 5 cards, 2 trades. Not going to be too relevant in this matchup.
He gets a replacement Trubbish as well as a rescue stretcher. If he wants, he could decide to get 2 in play at one time. Other than that, has quite a few options. Still has trade available.
Evo Soda and Garbotoxin are the draws. How much do you think, so when Brian knocked out that Trubbish, how much do you think that was what he wanted to do versus just the only thing he really could do? Like,
it was definitely the only thing he could do. Getting rid of this Zoroark here with 100 damage on it and that Choice Band was definitely priority number 1. The Trubbish is kind of nice because you still have to target that down later on, but is essentially, I think if he could have done it and not attacked the Golisopod, that was his goal.
Right, of course.
But since he had to just put this Glyspot in harm's way to get knocked out from this Zoroark, he's going to be put on the back foot quite early in this game.
Absolutely. Robin being deliberate in his play, just making sure what Brian's used, taking a look through the discard piles, and then you'll see a lot of high-level tournament play. Don't want to make any mistakes at this level. You're playing for a lot. You're playing for a lot of money, the title of world champion potentially. And again, we have plenty of time, extra time in the top 8 rounds, so we will not be having ties. We will not be having any of that. But we do see a knockout from Robin. Zoroark going a long way. 4 prizes remaining.
All right, well, Brian does draw the second Puzzle of Time off the top of his deck, but trades away the counter catcher here, really just eyeing down to take the knockout on that active Zoroark.
Yeah, we will need to have to deal with the Parallel City.
Oh, and actually looking through his discard, there is 3 Wimpod in there.
That's all of them.
Meaning the only real way for him to get back those Wimpod are with Puzzle of Time. Or Oranguru. So we might even see a pretty early resource management just so we can get Glyspod back online.
As you say it, that Oranguru comes down, Zoroark, Choice Band, double colorless.
Yeah, and that is enough, thanks to that Choice Band, to take the knockout here, holding on to that Field Blower just in case. That Trubbish putting a little bit of a threat out there. And not really having any other Pokemon to utilize in his bench. Besides, yeah, I'll just save it.
All right, action is back on Robin. 4 prizes remaining for Robin. 3 for Brian. A full stacked hand for Robin as he plays the second Trubbish down, just guaranteeing that he can play 1 Garbodor. Always kind of awkward when you know your opponent plays lots of Goos when you play 1. Sometimes you just want to kind of wait until you can have both so you can actually get somewhere. Last turn, he recognized, hey, this Zoroark is so much of a threat that if he wants to knock out Trubbish, that's fine. That means I'm going to get to attack with the Zoroark for free again.
Yeah, and out of all those cards in his hand, not really much to do. Decides to play the end to put Brian down to 3 and himself down to 4. Thankfully, he still has 2 trades left available to him.
All right, so what is Robin hoping to draw here? What is he looking for? Is he trying to just put some pressure on with Garbotoxin, Garbodor perhaps, put a tool in play, cut off those trades?
Yeah, he really does have 2 options. It depends how many items are in Brian's discard as of right now, but Garbotoxin could be pretty good, especially after ending his opponent down to 3. I see a Floatstone and a Mysterious Treasure, but his hand is Puzzle of Time and the Field Blower, so it could be interesting to see if he doesn't really want to discard a lot of these. Maybe just drawing some bad cards off a trade can get you there. Oh, wow.
Goodbye, Field Blower. Hello, Enhanced Hammer, and Puzzle of Time.
That's a pretty good 2 cards, but again, you don't want to discard those. We might just see him use the double Puzzle of Time to get some stuff here to fill his hand up.
A lot of options. Mysterious Treasure as well.
I could even see him trading the Mysterious Treasure away, and yeah
that's what he's going to do.
Oh, he drew the Garbotoxin Garbodor off that second trade, and this could not be a better turn for him.
So, all right.
Enhanced Hammer, that double colorless, Garbotoxin coming down, has the Floatstone, and then his hand is double Puzzle of Time and a Unit Energy.
I'm getting the first attack off. You can't use your trades. You have no energy. Go ahead.
All right, Brian does have a double colorless in his hand. I think I also saw a Puzzle of Time and a Lele, but not really much else stuff he can do. You can't even play that Lele down.
It's interesting, too, when you get into these matches where you're trading 1-hit or 2-hit KOs a lot. It's sometimes just being the first person to attack. Like that Zoroark already has damage on it. Going to need a little bit more next turn to be able to knock it out, but Robin just has a natural advantage there.
We see the single Puzzle of Time, and Brian looks at his top cards, and it is Field Blower card that doesn't matter.
It's going to be a rough turn of events for Brian. 110 damage, Riotous Beating. He's facing down Garbotoxin. He's facing down Zoroark GXs.
Yeah, so all Robin needs here is a benched Pokemon, and he will be able to swing for the knockout with Riotous Beating. He does have the double Buzzle at times, so we know that he has access to it at least. It just depends what route he takes for the rest of his turn.
Yeah, he does need one more Pokemon to get the knockout. Like you said, that would be huge, putting him down to 2 prizes remaining and saying, all right, well, I just have to knock out one more GX, and then I will win game number 1. Puzzle of Time is a really interesting card to play with, too, because there's just so many options. Like, we know what he needs is another benched Pokemon, but there are so many different ways to do it. You get an extra card along with it.
Yeah, it looks like Garbodor, the Trash Lanch variety, coming in, and then maybe a Cynthia as well.
Looks like what the selection will be, but of course, important to take your time and make sure you don't make any mistakes here. A lot of options. Got to run the numbers, as they say.
Has that unit energy in hand as well as a Bridget. So we could just see a Bridget here, but no. All right, Cynthia.
Nah, he'll be fine. He gets 6 cards. I also wonder, there's got to be enough items for the Garbodor to get in there.
There has to be.
So worst case scenario, you just save your Zoroark, go in with the Garbodor. It might actually be his plan at this point.
Yeah, that Zoroark is in danger of getting knocked out if Brian is able to draw into something. This will be a big Cynthia here. He does hit the Choice Band as well as Kartana GX. Definitely has a lot of options here and is really looking to close out this game 1 and move himself that much closer to top 4.
It looks like he is going with the Garbodor plan. Pays double colorless to retreat. Garbodor is up. Trashalanche is imminent.
Looking to see what resources he has used. 3 double colorless are in the bin right now. And there is a rescue stretcher as well.
Just going to go ahead and use the mode of returning 1 Pokemon directly to your hand with rescue stretcher, loading up another Trubbish, a full bench from Robin. Getting an item count, it looks like.
And yeah,
going to be the knockout. 2 prizes remaining. Just needs to knock out 1 more of these GX Pokemon in order to win game number 1.
Well, there is the Field Blower that Brian saw off the top of his deck. Tapu Lele coming down from his hand. Will be able to shuffle his deck as well as getting possibly that N.
All right, so this is a start. You know, if Brian is going to win this game, this is how he's going to do it, right? He needs to get rid of the Garbotoxin so he can start using abilities. He needs to get rid of the Parallel City so he can put more Pokemon on the board. So let's see where he goes from here, but that Field Blower was a good start.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what supporter he chooses here. Robin, now that Garbotoxin is not active, he does have access to both of his Zoroark's trade ability. I think he eyed down Guzma here.
Wonder Tag found a Guzma. Looks like the second Wonder Tag is going to find Bridget. Got to believe that Bridget is going to go to the discard pile with trade.
Yeah, it definitely has to. That is something you definitely don't want to play this late in the game. Trade number 1. Let's see what he draws. A Zorua and something else, and then Mew and a Grass Energy.
Well, but he actually doesn't have any way to attack. That's both trades, right?
That is both trades. We could see a Guzma and Oranguru resource management. Hope your opponent does not have Floatstone or Guzma themselves.
That's what we're going to see. Oranguru, Grass Energy. I'm hoping that your Garbotoxin or Garbodor is stuck here, and I have to resource management.
Resource management does put back 3 item cards. And that might be enough to keep some of his GXs alive. That Tapu Lele kind of being a liability on the bench right now.
So those go right onto the bottom of the deck. And now it's on Robin to find a way to move this Garbodor, take a knockout here, continue to press his advantage. He's going to count the items up just to make sure he knows what he's dealing with.
There is 6 items, so that is enough to take a knockout on the active Oranguru here. And that much closer to maybe finishing off this game. Field Blower makes it 7. Choice Band, that is 170, enough to take the knockout on Tapu Lele GX. And Robin Schulz wins game 1.
Wow, that was a very impressive victory from Robin, a player who we thought may have had a little bit of disadvantage in the deck portion, you know, maybe Golisopod's kind of a weird card to deal with. You only have Zoroark. Started out this game, only had a few Zoroarks in play, didn't really get much going, but eventually dealt with that Golisopod and then just took over the game from there.
Yeah, it really came down to that turn where Brian was forced to Guzma the Trubbish and knock it out with the damaged Golisopod, basically just shutting off half of his deck. I was talking about this before, where a lot of the strategy against Zoroark Golisopod is either you target down all the Zoroarks or you target down all the Golisopods. And we saw Robin do that to great success there in game 1.
Having to get rid of the Wimpod as well off the Parallel City. Things just did not go well for Brian, but that's why we play best 2 of 3 here in the top 8. Robin just 1 game away potentially. All he needs to do is win 1 more game before Brian can win 2. Players are shuffling up, and Brian will be going first, so he will get that advantage once again. And let's see if it turns out to be enough this time, or if it'll be Robin Schulz moving on.
Yeah, Robin being able to sneak that win out going second. Brian was just not able to find double colorless energy for a few turns, and it really slowed his setup down. And Robin was able to capitalize, especially with that N and Garbotoxin combination.
Robin going to take a mulligan, so another card will join the opening hand for Brian. Both players looking very intense. They know there's a lot on the line here. They're happy to have made it, but still they know that their tournament is hopefully very far from over. This is kind of the important part. Once you get to this part, you're saying, all right, well, now I really need to focus. Now I really need to batten down the hatches and hopefully become world champion.
Yeah, he is one step closer, or Robin is. And we'll see if Brian can play spoiler, but that's essentially what he does best.
It's what he's known for. Here we go. Prizes for Robin.
Enhanced hammer and a couple of energy.
All right, and on Brian's side,
quite a few basics there, and then a grass energy as well. That Oranguru might come into play, it might not. It really depends how the game progresses.
And we are off. Game 2 has begun. Brian Miller versus Robin Schulz. Brian Miller going first. Turn 1
no.
Sycamore.
And it's not just a turn 1 Sycamore. I think that's a turn 1 Sycamore with double puzzle of time in his hand. Ouch.
Is he going to have to pass a turn with only 2 Zoro and play no Wimpod? He just has to pass.
Yeah, we even see that double colorless there. That's going bye-bye with this Kartana GX if Robin really chooses to.
So we've talked all day about how important those Bridget starts are, about how the Zoroark decks, they want to fill their bench, especially something, we're seeing a town map.
Town map ruining our prize cam once again.
We know how important those turn 1 Bridget starts, especially in this sort of deck where you want Wimpods and Zoroarks on the bench, so not having that is huge. Oh, we have tech now. Look, we have tech to fix the prize cam.
Oh.
All right.
It's 2018, guys. Yeah, this is actually a pretty awkward start from Robin as well. We might even see him playing that Kartana GX unit, or he doesn't even have the unit energy. It's on top of his deck.
Yeah, he's playing a single puzzle. Sees cards that aren't going to be too helpful overall.
Yeah, his hand is just the Kartana and Guzma. He is able to either Evo Soda and shuffle his deck or trade next turn. But his only other option is using that unit energy and Blade GX to take the N from his prizes.
Wow, so double colorless comes off the top for Brian. Both players having pretty slow starts here.
Maybe they made an agreement just not to play Bridget for the rest of the match.
let's even things out a bit.
Like, this matchup's boring. We need to get some spice into it.
Yeah, no Bridget. Top 8 of the World Championship, no Bridget, special format. Evo Soda finds Zoroark GX. The trades will begin. I believe Robin also had a Zoroark GX in his hand. So next turn, he'll be able to hopefully smooth out his draws a little bit.
All right, there's another Evo Soda. So 2 Zoroarks here from Brian Miller. He also has a double colorless. He could start attacking.
He found the Wimpod too. All right, things are looking up for him.
His hand's actually not too bad right now.
No, his hand's totally fine. He had to take last turn off. But now I think he has a Tapu Lele in hand as well. Obviously, double Zoroark. Evo Soda is a heck of a card.
And one important card he could get right now is that Parallel City as well. Just really kind of stunting Robin's setup even more.
Taking a look through his deck, just determining what is in his prize cards. Really important to do, help you make decisions later in the game. Robin won't need to do that thanks to Town Map, but not all of us are so lucky.
All right, there is that second trade coming down. It has the N, also has the Guzma. We could see Guzma targeting down the lone Zorua here.
Wow,
Ryan
this
is beating,
huge.
take the knockout, leave Robin with just Kartana. He will get to Blade GX and take the N from his prizes, but that is all he can do. Or Lele,
Tapu Lele,
same thing.
Same thing. Wow, yeah, that thank goodness for that unit energy on top of the deck, but he's still taking another turn off here, essentially. No Zoroarks in play, which means, or no Zorua in play, rather, which means he won't even have Zoroarks until 2 turns from now. This is not a good place to be if you're Robin Schulz.
Brian drawing that Golisopod here as well could be a source of big damage, even though I was just about to say he has no bench, but he plays the Bridget for the turn. So now full bench, 120 damage from a Zoroark if he chooses to. But actually, I think he just got 1 Zorua.
Yeah, just getting the single Zorua there, deciding he wants to leave some bench spots open. Looks like he has another Wimpod and a Lele in hand.
Oh, that's perfect.
So he basically kind of already had those. Golisopod comes down.
And he has a Zoroark in hand for next turn as well. This is looking to be such a powerful start from Brian here, especially with Robin having no other Pokemon in play. Kartana is trying to do it all by itself.
Here's a trade off the Float Stone, and then he does decide after some hesitation to play the second Wimpod, and we are going to see a riotous beating.
All right, Guzma off the top for Robin here. Not what he's looking for.
It's all about this Tapu Lele Wonder Tag here.
I think it has to get a Sycamore. He really needs a lot of cards. I guess Bridget is another option to survive.
Yeah, he's just deciding, hey, you know, I just need to set up. I have a Zoroark GX in my hand. That can get things rolling. I just really need, you know, Sycamore is such a risky thing to do. You do get 7 cards, but he's just saying, all right, this is a couple turns too late, but Bridget's what I need here. I know this is slow. I know this is imperfect, but it's what I have to do. Listen,
I thought both players agreed to no Bridget, and they go back-to-back playing Bridget.
No turn 1 Bridges was the agreement, if I remember correctly. All right, so 2 Zorua and a Trubbish join that Tapu Lele on the bench. Not much else to do, though. Evo Soda, Guzma, Garbodor.
So his hand is pretty good for next turn, granted that these Zoruas stick around.
Does not want to lose 2 prizes with that Kartana being knocked out, so he retreats to that Tapu Lele.
All right, but Brian's hand is looking pretty stacked right now. First trade coming out of his hand. Trades away the N, does not want to play that card, given Robin's setup.
Yeah, and there's still a very good chance that Robin is not able to, you know, start drawing more cards here. He only has access to the top of his deck and then 1 Zoroark GX. So he's only going to see a handful of cards. Not like he has a ton of Zoroark GX in play.
And there's the Tapu Lele, probably eyeing down that Guzma, just so he can bring up either the Trubbish or the Zorua. Attacking the Zorua here, really limiting Robin's ability to try to come back in this game.
Yeah, we're going to see that first impression knock out the Zorua here, just putting him on maximum 1 Zoroark.
And here we have Armor Press. 100 damage, taking the knockout, reduced 20 next turn, done to Golisopod. Really tanking out there.
Yeah, Golisopod showing what it can do here. Leaving the Zoroark GXs back to be able to trade. And Brian going down to 4 prizes remaining with a big, beefy attacker versus Robin's board of basically nothing.
Man, Robin is going to need to chain together a lot of great cards to come back.
He drew a Cynthia.
That's a step number 1. Being able to draw out of this really awkward hand he's been having.
Going to go ahead and play the Evo Soda. Thought he was trading that away for a second, but he's just going to go ahead and try to find the Garbotoxin Garbodor that's in his deck.
Yeah, pretty good, but it does limit one of his attackers, really. He did have that Trash Launch in hand as well, but chose not to play it, valuing that ability lock a little bit more.
Yeah, I think at this point in the game, he's just kind of thinking, well, Another attacker isn't going to really do me good here. I really want to get to the point where that attacker can be even relevant, which it's going to take slowing you down a bit in order to do. So again, taking a turn off from having a big attacker, but that Garbodor is best in the late game anyway.
And he could be thinking, well, Brian's got this super fast start. Maybe I can bring something up or get rid of some energy and then just end my opponent down. Oh, there is a Parallel City as well as a Float Stone for the Garbodor if he chooses. Looking like a pretty sick hand. A couple Mysterious Treasures as well. Maybe you can get some more Trubbish in play.
No double colorless. Looks like not quite yet. At least we do have a trade available.
It's a big trade. No.
No way to attack here. No way to press his advantage. Just can turn on Garbotoxin, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, it's really leaving him vulnerable here. He does have the option to Float Stone the Zoroark and retreat into something to sacrifice the knockout next turn. He really wants to keep the Zoroark sticking around. It's his one way of actually progressing his game further.
Yeah, he definitely has to. There's a Mysterious Treasure getting rid of a Professor Sycamore, finding a Trubbish to play directly on to the bench, hopefully setting up another Garbodor in future turns. Things not going Robin's way so far in this game.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate, especially after being able to pull out that first game. Granted, he did pull out the first game, so there still will be a game 3 if this does not go his way.
Speaking of the first game, on our other table here, Clive is up 1 game versus Shudo. That Clyde, the hero from Singapore with his Zygarde deck, is up 1 game, just needs to win 1 more game to advance to the top 4.
Man, hashtag Team Clive. It's exciting to see Zygarde doing so well. And there is a Parallel City getting rid of Robin's own Kartana with 100 damage on it. Really just also limiting the damage output from Brian, at least his Glycopods.
We are seeing another trade here from Brian.
It'll be interesting to see how Brian navigates this turn. Robin's really trying to set up a turn where he gets Brian maybe 2 prizes and then gets that Garbotoxin, ends him down to 2, and then he could try to start making his comeback from there. But just an armor press from Brian here. 80 damage thanks to that Parallel City, but he still reduces that 20 on Robin's turn.
Almost like the red side of Parallel City is in play for both players, at least when attacking this Glycopod.
Robin actually has a Field Blower as well. This is a pretty sweet combination, being able to play the other Parallel if he chooses to, and reverse the sides.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what's going to happen. But first, we're going to get a Mysterious Treasure, discarding a Float Stone after some consideration.
Yeah, eyeing down that Tapu Lele to get him a supporter for the turn, and that supporter is N. Being able to disrupt Brian a little bit, but he did discard that Float Stone, so if he chooses he wants to go for that ability lock, he'll need to draw into that tool.
Parallel City comes down, bench limiting side on Brian. We see him consistently make the same play, getting rid of his Wimpod, and now an N. 4 cards for Brian, 5 for Robin.
Yeah, this is still not the kind of disruption you want this late in the game, especially when you're this far down, but he'll take anything he can get.
And let's see what comes to the hand of Robin on after this N. Has not found a way to actually attack yet. No energy in play, of course. No Trashalanche Garbodor. Wants to turn Garbotoxin on as well.
Oh, finally finds a double colorless, but is it too late? He does have the Float Stone and a unit energy as well as an Evo Soda. We could see a Trashalanche come out of him this turn. Is there enough items in the discard, though? That is the question.
I'm not quite sure. Haven't been keeping track. There is that Garbodor, so won't need to use that Evo Soda. Just has it naturally in hand.
I don't know if there is the tool, yeah, the Float Stone in his hand, but if he wants to attack this turn, he would have to use it. on the Zoroark instead of that Garbodor. And then your N essentially did nothing.
I think I saw 9 items, but that was just a quick count. Can't be completely sure on that.
That's heartbreaking if it is, because he does not have that choice band. And if you don't take a knockout on a Golisopod, it's most likely gonna get Acerola next turn.
All right, and it looks like he is committing to the turn on Garbotoxin and attack with Zoroark GX plan. There's a Riotous beating. So
it's 80 damage because the armor press from last turn, reducing that 20.
I think that's what they're discussing now. It would normally be 100, but...
And here we see just a draw, nothing much. Crossing Cut GX take the knockout.
Just 2 prizes remaining for Brian Miller. Not much else to do. No abilities, of course, because of that Garbodor that you see on your screen.
So Robin, I believe, does have Guzma, Garbodor, and Unit Energy in his hand. That could take the knockout on the Golisopod and leave Brian with just some Zoroarks that cannot trade. It means he will not be able to play an N this turn, but it might be able to get him caught up a little bit in this game if Brian doesn't have anything.
I mean, if you can just put Brian on completely not having anything, it looks like it's what he's going to do.
All right, there is the Guzma, and Trashlanch will take a knockout here. Robin going to go down to 3 prizes, trying to claw his way back and finish this match off 2-0. I think he's deciding about a rescue stretcher. The one advantage about playing town map is you get to see your prizes and pick and choose what you get for next turn after you take a knockout. And with an Evo Soda in hand, he could just get that N, maybe get Enhanced Hammer, and then Evo Soda to a Zoroark. He has trade available if something happens to the Float Stone, and set himself up for a pretty good position.
That's exactly what he does. Zoroark GX becomes active on Brian's side.
Oh, wow. We see 2 Puzzle of Times at the front of Brian's hand. He could have just been biding his time and waiting for this play. Really having access to everything he can. Other than that, his hand is kind of a little weird. He's really going to have to rely on the back of these puzzles.
So what's the priority with Puzzle of Time here?
If there's a Field Blower in there, you have to get it. The question is it in there?
It is. It's almost the very last card.
Oh, I was worried for a second there. Field Blower turns on all 3 of your Zoroark GX. It gets rid of that Parallel City, meaning you can bench enough Pokemon to hopefully take the knockout. He would need the full bench to take the knockout on that Garbodor.
And as we see, it also turns on your Tapu Lele Wonder Tag ability, which is going to get activated right now. That was the other card he took with Puzzle of Time.
And we could just see him getting that Bridget out of his deck again to trade away. Maybe a Guzma to hold on for later, or the Acerola as well. Definitely plenty of options in his hand. Even having the Cynthia already to try to redraw his hand, maybe get some other cards.
There's a Guzma taken off of the Wonder Tag. Trade available to him now. No attackers if this, for Robin, if this Garbodor falls here.
All right, he actually plays the Bridget. He was missing a basic here, and then with the other basic in his hand, he will be able to bench it and take the knockout.
All right, so a full bench and then a Parallel City coming down, limiting the bench of Robin.
It's exactly what he needs, just because it means another piece of the puzzle for Robin to try to get, because Parallel City would really hurt him. But now, if Robin wants to do that, he has to have Field Blower and his Parallel.
Dropping a Grass Energy on the Tapu Lele, preparing for later, and now just a single prize left for Brian Miller. Still 3 remaining for Robin.
All right, Evo Soda getting that Zoroark GX. But Robin is staring down a pretty scary field here. That Enhanced Hammer he got, though, is going to try to put in a little bit of work.
All right, so Parallel City has been taken care of. We said that was a piece of the puzzle. We said Robin needed to remove that, and he has. And now N, he's putting Brian on just one card. And let me tell you, one card in hand, maybe if Robin's able to reset the Garbotoxin, will not bode well for Brian here.
Yeah, that is going to be the main goal for Robin here from this N and the one trade he has available. He needs to find one of his 5 tools, either 3 Floatstone or 2 Choice Band. He's been through quite a lot already. Big 3 cards here. Just 3 Pokemon.
Does have a trade still available to him. Gonna get rid of that unnecessary Zoroark GX. Double colorless Tapu Lele are the draws.
That is not what you want to see. Brian will have access to all 3 of his Zoroark's trade abilities next turn. And while he did get the energy to attack and put a little pressure on, it is not looking good for Robin here.
Yeah, a hand that just doesn't really do anything this turn. Really not what he was looking for. He will have a Tapu Lele, of course, for the next turn. But being able to reset that Garbotoxin would have been huge.
And looking through the discard, there is quite a few double colorless in there. It'll be interesting to see what resources Brian has left in his deck that he can draw into. He actually opted to attach that grass energy to the Tapu Lele last turn instead of something like the Wimpod to try to prepare for a Golisopod.
There are a lot of options here.
Wow, look at Robin's deck. Those are all the cards he wants, and all the cards he wants are not in his hand.
Unfortunate there for him.
So he might just have to, if he survives, try to retry this strategy of end Garbotoxin next turn. So here we go. Riot is beating 100 damage. Brian discards that Parallel City for the first trade. Not hitting anything yet.
And there's a second trade.
Acerola, a pretty good card here, but still not what he's looking for.
Ultra Ball goes by the wayside.
Those are all of his trades.
Trade. He has no way. He has no other Zora on the bench, so he has no way to get another trade out of this Acerola.
So yeah, we see the Acerola denying the 2 prizes from Robin with that Zoroark, but not advancing his board state at all here.
He just drops the Zorua. I don't think he has any other cards to play. Yeah, he just forced to pass back to Robin.
And now action's back on Robin. He really needs this Garbotoxin active. If he does not get the tool, I don't know if Brian can miss again.
I mean, you got to believe when you're doing 2 or 3 trade abilities, rather, that you're going to hit something. So unlucky turn for Robin into unlucky turn.
Oh, there is
Brian.
Plenty of items in the discard for Brian there. I think I counted 12, which is enough to take a knockout on Zoroark.
All right, so Garbodor may play a big role as we get later into this game.
This is definitely coming down to the wire. Brian just have that one prize card left that he needs to take to tie this game up. But these ends are really proving brutal.
Yeah, he has just had a rough go of it over the past couple of turns. And even though he only has 1 prize card remaining, he may not be able to get there.
All right, there is pretty much a perfect hand from Robin. Garbodor, Choice Band on the Garbodor, and N. So it's interesting, he had the tool this turn, but chose not to attach it to the Garbotoxin.
Yeah, the weird situation that he's in right now, too, is that turns off his trade as well, like we talked about a little bit earlier. It's not just purely one-sided. And when he still is losing, still is on the back foot, it can be kind of strange to.
And he still does have a little bit more resources left. He has Puzzle of Times. He even has the Float Stone, which he has in his hand. Spoiler alert.
All right, here's a trade, getting rid of an extra Zora.
Double puzzle off the trade. His one trade proving the best trade.
All right, 2 Puzzle of Time, allowing him to get any 2 cards from his discard pile. Unit Energy, are we going to see a Trashalanche attack this turn? We're going to see a game at 1-1 prizes.
Yeah, Unit Energy pretty good right now. There also is maybe Parallel City restricting the bench again on Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only problem is you risk with Brian only have one prize left. You do risk the Garbodor getting knocked out there. So it looks like he is, he takes the unit in parallel, but he's still thinking about it. Really critical decision here. This game is going to end soon one way or another.
Yeah, and both sides of Parallel City could do a ton of work here as well. Because if he's scared of Golisopod, then he can just put the blue side on himself and limit his bench. But if he's scared of Zoroark, then he definitely has to limit Brian's bench here.
Right, goodbye Tapu Lele, goodbye Wimpod. Hello, Garbotoxin is online, Trashalanche, that's a knockout. One prize each. Who will win the game? Brian draws, he does not look happy about that draw, and he extends the hand.
That is game.
Robin Schulz advances to the top 4 here at the Pokemon World Championship in Nashville. Look how happy he looks. He has made top 4 of this tournament, one step closer to becoming the world champion.
Robin Schulz doing what most legends can't, destroying the Legend Destroyer.
Yeah, 2-0 victory for Robin Schulz. Wow, that Zoroark Garbodor deck is going a very long way. Zoroark Golisopod could not get there. All respects to Brian. He came in. We saw the differences in accomplishments of both of these players. We saw